Hello, Soul Spark community. We have today the honor to have a new guest, Sharon Abbott. Welcome, Sharon.
Thank you, Lucia.
Sharon has actually been on the Oprah Winfrey Show. She has already sparked a lot in her life. And not only there, but she was also featured for her innovative concepts on positive communication techniques. And she was in many TV and radio programs focused on entrepreneurship. She believes it is an amazing privilege to be able to affect people in positive nature um, through public speaking. So she started the Lions Club, right, herself. And Sharon believes tremendously in community. She has more than 20 years experience working in a corporate environment, and she wrote 10 books. I wrote them to read on different subjects, but they all have really inspiring titles. And she's helped her clients become published authors. Sorry. Her latest venture is to launch a high school program in Belize for kids at risk who are from the U.S. She will be taking 1,000 boys and girls each semester. Welcome, Sharon. That's an amazing resume so far.
Thank you, Lucia. Thank you very much. It's just a pleasure to be able to reach you and your audience with the idea of what they can do in their own communities.
Yes. So tell us what sparks your soul in and what can we do to help?
Well, this is an easy one. So when I think about all the kids at risk, prior to COVID, there were 200,000 children living on the streets in the United States without an adult to provide or protect them. Today, it's 700,000. Of that 700,000 children, 50% will end up in prison or they will be dead by their 35th birthday. A lot of these kids come from the foster care system. So at 15, they're actually shown the door and that's it. No more programs. Because they don't have an address, they can't even qualify for food stamps. So these poor kids have nothing. They have nowhere to go, and they don't know today where they're going to sleep, and they don't know where their next meal is coming from. So I created this program from my little brother, who I took from my parents when he was 15 and I was only 24. And in 2000, he said, we have to do something to help kids living on the streets who don't have a sister like you. And so it was such an impactful statement from him. And so I ended up starting this whole concept with him, and he decided that it needed to be in Belize. But in every community across this country, like here in Houston, where I am waiting to go to Belize, there are 24,000 children living on the streets today. Every single community has these kids. Of all the kids who get put into juvenile hall, there's 50% more children than there are beds. So these kids end up sleeping on floors because the facilities don't have the capacity to handle the number of kids that are being picked up. So what we need to do is look around in our own community and what can you do to inspire someone? So you mentioned the Lions Club. So my mentor, Ed, took me to a Lions Club meeting, and we were having lunch, and he leans over just before we finished eating, and he said, by the way, you're the speaker today. And that was my first experience speaking in front of a group of people, because I grew up stuttering. I didn't want to be a speaker, but he knew that if I didn't get out of my comfort zone and start speaking, that I would never be able to elevate my business to a level that was comfortable for me. And I was teaching entrepreneur skills in the San Francisco Bay Area. I had 2,500 clients over 20 years, and I was able to help people increase their profitability and their business by 25% in the first 6 months. Well, I figured if I can do that, then I could inspire the people who I was working with to go out and be part of the nonprofit organizations that maybe they had an interest in, whether it was seniors or pets or veterans or children, environment, whatever. And so that was one of the priorities, that each one of my clients had to find something that they could give back to their community. Most people are so busy surviving that they don't even know they can go out into the community and do something to help their community become better. So
Yeah.
when you're driving around your community and you look and you see, oh, there's a bunch of kids, and oh my gosh, they don't look like they've had a shower in a while, or, maybe half of them are wearing pajamas, or, their clothes are kind of beat up. Those are probably homeless kids. Now, if you know of a policeman, a fireman, a school teacher, a minister that has a youth outreach program, they probably know where these youth are hanging out. So what if a Lions Club, a Rotary Club, a Kiwanis Club could actually instigate taking a building that's been abandoned and turn it into a space for these youth to at least sleep in a safe environment? What would it take? Now, I know all these organizations have funds where they reach out into the community and they do things, but nobody's thinking about these kids living on the streets. There's very few organizations in the United States who do anything like that, and fewer around the world. So I think it's our responsibility. These kids did not ask to be born to parents who can't take care of them. I met two boys that were 12 years old when they left home. One of them, he came home from school and his mother had moved with her boyfriend and didn't tell him where she moved to. After 3 weeks, the rent was gone, and he ended up living on the streets. And fortunately, he met some kids that were about 3 years older than him. They kept him from the drug community, and they kept him from the sex trade. But that could have been the result of his being on the streets and by himself. So he was one of the lucky ones. The other young boy, he wouldn't even tell me why he had to leave home. He was so uncomfortable even talking about it. So can you imagine at 12 years old that you would choose to live on the streets rather than at home with your family?
Yeah.
It had to be pretty rough. So what I want to do is mainly convince people that if they look around their own community, they can do something to help these kids. Like every November for my birthday, I do a fundraising project through social media. It's called Coats for Kids. Everyone can do this in their own community. So, when I went through my closets, excuse me, and I realized I had 11 coats and jackets, and I had 8 blankets that I wasn't using, I was kind of embarrassed. So I just gathered them all up. That was my first project 8 years ago. And I took them to where the kids were hanging out. It is so incredible that we can drive by these kids and not even notice that they're there. So I want to raise the consciousness for people.
Yes, thank you. And such an important message because we are surviving too much. And even, like in our cities, we can just ask the youth helpers, and we can, because there is a lot of actually funds available, but we are very, myself included, I always did community work, but here in Holland, sometimes I have the idea like, oh yeah, but there is already so much, but I don't even know if that's true, to be honest.
No, probably not. And the thing that people don't realize, it's so simple to start something. I ask people in the United States if they know how many people it took for the United States to rescind from England's control in the Revolutionary War. And not one person has ever said they knew. 12 people were having dinner, and that started the Revolutionary War. Can you imagine? So if 12 people can do something that monumental, you as an individual could go to a social organization and say, hey, let's do something about this problem, and let's instigate something. Let's direct these funds that are available through cities and counties and states and all the government programs to be able to help these kids have a safer environment.
Yes. Well, I know in Holland there's this organization called the Lost Child. It's like children of difficult home situations. My daughter was in a school where I could see, like that side of society where kids are not emotionally well taken care of because the parents probably have a lot of trauma. And thank you for doing this. And I hope anyone who's listening also, we have so much abundance, isn't it?
We do. We throw more food away in the United States on a daily basis that we could feed everyone that doesn't have enough food. But there's so much red tape. that the food doesn't get to the people who need it. Like I tried to instigate that the Boy Scouts of America would go through our walking trails and pick up the fruits and vegetables that had grown out into the trails. But I mean, it seems so logical to me, pick up this food and then deliver it to the homeless people, but they were afraid of the legal liabilities and insurance problems that they would have. So nobody would do anything about it. And it's like, gosh, I just can't believe people are so concerned about the legal ramifications rather than helping other people, and who would sue the Boy Scouts of America for picking a fruit? I mean, people could go door to door and say, is it okay if we take the fruit or the vegetables that are out into the trail and not on their property? I don't think anybody would mind that, so I don't get why, people don't stop and look. It's your community. You want it to be better. You don't want these kids stealing from you because they just don't have any food and they don't know where they're sleeping tonight. So what are they supposed to do? We've forced them into a life of crime.
Yeah, I think also like people in survival, so the kids on the street, it's like they stay silent, they hide, right? Like so, and I think we that have the abundance sometimes we don't see it because like we believe in our own bubble. So I'm really happy that you use your voice for that. And I know you have amazing ideas for the kids that you want to send to Belize. Would you like to share something about that?
Oh, yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun. So all the required curriculum, math, English, science, is all going to be in multimedia. So programs like the Khan Academy and Next Gen. And the great thing about this education is they can't go any further until they get it right. So they really do learn it. And then there's going to be a 45-minute discussion over the lesson they just learned. So they're going to have double exposure to the information. And then they have to take the discussion and go edit it in the video lab and tag it to the original class. So if somebody wanted to do a deep dive, imagine after 3 years, the amount of information from these discussions, what do the kids really think about the class that they're taking? How do they reason? When you get kids talking about these things, then it sinks in better. So then we have 22 divisions for the project Ultimate Business International, and the school, Ultimate Business University, is just one of the divisions. And so the kids will learn construction. They're going to learn how to restore the old 50s and 60s muscle cars that will then auction once a year. We're going to teach them 3D printing. So we're going to recreate the 20s and 30s beautiful old cars like the Stutz Bearcat, the 1929 Mercedes, the ones with the really long noses. And then we're going to auction those off. But the kids are going to learn each and every single aspect: performing arts, agriculture, horticulture, animal husbandry. We're even going to breed our own horses. So we're going to come up with a new breed of horses that is perfect for Belize. We're going to have equestrian programs. There's a program that used to be here in Austin, Texas, and this man was so amazing. He took the hardened criminals, youth under 18 that had committed murder. Not one of these children in 30 years ever went back into the correction facilities at all. Not one in 30 years. The horses have a way of leveling the playing field. And because they're such big animals, it takes away the resistance and breaks down the emotional barriers of kids. So we're going to have these amazing equestrian programs to be able to help the kids.
Well, 1 second. I see my screen growing dark and I don't want to lose you. So wow, that's a big project.
It is huge. We're going to have the performing arts. We're going to have our own entertainment village where the kids will get to perform. So all kids have to take music, whether they play an instrument, they sing, they work on the boards, they work in recording. They're going to learn the business of music. And we have, I think, 24 people on the team so far. There's 500 people from 66 countries that are moving to Belize just to help me launch this program. And we have amazing people. I call them my rock star team because they have so much experience that they can actually take my thoughts and make them happen because of their worldly experience. Like my COO built the Las Vegas Civic Center. It was a $9 billion project. My COO of construction built 4 cities in Saudi Arabia. My structural engineer built the Bay Area rapid transit system. I have people that are so incredible. One of my medical officers has been in Afghanistan for 20 years teaching medical practice to not only the military, but to local medical teams. So, I mean, I have people that are just so amazing. It's like every time I'm introduced to someone, it's like, oh, what a perfect person for my team. And every one of them is on the team because they care about the world and they want to do something that will make them feel good about the work that they do. So it's not just a job, it's a way of life.
Yes, amazing. Well, I've been for kids to Guatemala, so I was thinking, oh, that's really a good program for kids in Belize that come from the States. And I do believe in taking kids away from their environment and re-educate them. It's I see the building that
Yeah,
you it's there right
that
there.
yeah,
So
taking the
you
kids off the streets and having them grow up in a castle.
yeah, it's amazing. And that all because of the love for your brother, right?
Exactly. He inspired it. So the school is dedicated to him. I'm actually going to do a bronze statue of him. I don't know if it's going to be him fishing with my other brother who also passed away, but I'm going to do something to commemorate his life. He is the one who taught me how to laugh out loud because my life was so serious that I never laughed out loud until I was 45 years old. And it was Tony that inspired me to laugh out loud. And it's just so incredible. This guy, he was magical. He could walk into a room of 200 people, not know a single person, and when he walked out, everybody thought he was their best friend. I mean, it was just incredible.
That's
So,
charisma. Wow.
yeah, and he could, it would like everything from, like the executive of American Express, he would hang out with him and he would go hang out with the bikers. It didn't matter who it was. He just loved everybody and was such an amazing spirit that he really did inspire me.
Yeah, amazing. So actually, all that love will be multiplied. And so you are waiting, right? Like, you gather the community. Have you do you also have a Facebook or somewhere where this all is like gathered? And how are you going forth?
I do have a Facebook page, a LinkedIn profile, X, Twitter. Um, I'm kind of on Instagram. It's kind of like overload with social media. So
Yeah.
the website, there's about 2,000 pages on the website, and it's Ultimate Business, UNIV as in Victor.com. So university, UNIV. And there's so much information there, including a storybook of all the things that are so magical that have happened. Like I went to Dallas to be at this real estate event, and while I was there, I noticed the Dallas Chamber was having an event in the same hotel. And so I went over to introduce myself to the Dallas Chamber director, thinking I could come back and speak to the chamber about one of my books that teaches people how to connect in the business community. And there was a man standing there, and he said Belize. And I waited for him to stop talking to the chamber director, and then I tapped him on the shoulder when he was done, and I said, I'm building my school in Belize. And we talked for 5 minutes, and 3 weeks later, I got an email from the Honorable Tent. And so I've never had an email signed Honorable somebody. So I looked him up. He's the ambassador from Belize based in Dallas.
Oh wow. All
I
these
mean,
things
just
come
so
together.
magical. I mean, this project, I swear my brother is up there guiding people to me and to make this project what it needs to be. I mean, there's probably about 200 stories like that in the storybook. So I'm just so, like, I feel so privileged to be a part of this. Like, I know it's my creation and it was instigated by my brother, but it's everybody else that's going to implement it. And, working with people who have the skills and the heart to be able to make this world a better place. I mean, I don't think you can talk to anybody that doesn't recognize that there's something they can do that can make their own community a better place, safer for their children, their grandchildren. You know, like I love what President Trump did to make Washington, D.C. a safer city where people feel like they can actually walk after dark now. You know, and you just didn't dare do that in Washington, D.C. a month ago. You know, and we have so many cities around this country that are filled with violence because they're not controlled. And these kids living on the streets by themselves, they're exposed to that every single day. You know, it's so unfair. You know, I grew up in a community where there was 10,000 people in 10 square miles. You know, we knew every person in the community, and we could go anywhere at night. We could walk anywhere. There was never any danger. You know, why can't we return the world to that? Kids should be safe. They should not be threatened. You know, and I don't know how parents ever let their kids out of their sights in this day and age, because it is a scary world right now. And I truly believe that together we can change this back into a world that we really love.
Yes, thank you. I completely agree, and I hope that this sparks in us like some consciousness, and maybe, you know, like somebody's listening that wants to support you financially or with their skills, or uh, really feels drawn to your project, or like each one of us is going to think about what we can do in our communities, and that communities grow back, right? Like, not we have a community online, but you also have a community around you, and we just sometimes we think too easy,
You know, like
especially.
a good example in San Francisco, where I'm from, there were communities that were just completely beat up. You know, from after the earthquake in California, I think it was 2013, and it destroyed a lot of buildings and a lot of communities, and there were fires, and you know everything was destroyed, and then slowly they were all built up. So like one community would be flourishing, and then another community would be completely dilapidated, and then somebody would go in and buy one house, and the next thing you know, there were 5 houses that were purchased, and people, you know, made them, like, refurbished them, made them brand new again. And then that community would just flourish because all of a sudden there's new paint and nothing's beat up and broken down, you know, and you could see how in some communities that happens. So I was in Davenport, Illinois in 2015, and you wouldn't believe these gorgeous Victorian houses that were completely dilapidated. You couldn't even walk up the stairs. They were so beat up. You know, paint chipping and peeling off the walls, and, you know, railings missing, and, you know, yards completely destroyed. If somebody were to go into that community and refurbish those communities, just by making them look good, makes a neighborhood safer. You know, simple things that people can do.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your inspiration. Is there one
You're
little
welcome.
spark that you would like to leave us with, even though you already sparked a lot, but maybe one little spark so we can.
You know, I would say, Lucia, that when you look around the world that you live in, if you make one change today, a year from now, you never know how you can impact other people. Random acts of kindness go so far. Like when I leave the where I am and I go outside into the community here in Houston, I always find at least one person that I can inspire or help or do something. You know, I always carry like 24 bottles of water in my car because I always see homeless people. You know, you imagine a homeless person getting a bottle of water, like a 64-ounce bottle of water that's clean. You know, I mean, something simple like that. Or I'll go into a store and I'll buy, you know, a few extra groceries and then give them to the homeless people that are standing outside. I don't give them money, but I will give them food. You know, so what can you do to make your world a better place? And then it comes back on you. It's a reflection of who you are.
Thank you. I hope people will
You're
circle back
welcome.
when they have done their act of kindness or started igniting something that you suggest, and I will let you know here in this chat.
I look forward to it. Thank you so much, Lucia.
Thank you for doing this, for not
You're
only living
welcome.
for yourself, but also for others people that are more in need.